Ghostly tales, yet mirrors of human life. Hey everyone! Welcome to Encountering Chinese, Ghostly Tales from Zhai. Today, I'm going to tell you a story called Lotus Flowers in the Winter. In Jinan Prefecture, there was a Taoist priest whom nobody knew where he came from or what his name was. Regardless of the harsh winter or scorching summer, the Taoist always wore only a padded jacket, tied around his waist with a yellow silk cord, never wearing any other trousers or short coats. He often used half a comb to tidy his hair, and once his hair was done, he would insert the comb teeth into his hair bun, resembling a small hat perched on his head. He walked barefoot on the streets every day and slept on the roadside at night, with the snow and ice melting several feet around his body. Initially, when the Taoist arrived in Jinan, he often performed illusions for the people, and the citizens were very fond of him, eagerly offering him money. A rogue youth from a nearby alley brought him some wine, requesting the Taoist to teach him his illusions, but the Taoist didn't agree. Once, the rogue youth happened to encounter the Taoist bathing by the river, and he took away the Taoist's clothes to threaten him. The Taoist bowed and said, "Please return my clothes, and I will teach you the illusions." The youth, fearing deception, steadfastly refused. The Taoist then asked, "Will you really not return my clothes?" The rogue youth replied, "No." The Taoist fell silent, and soon the youth saw the yellow silk cord of the Taoist transform into a snake. The snake's body was not only long but also exceptionally thick. It coiled around the rogue youth 6 or 7 times, then raised its head, glaring angrily and spitting venom at the youth's face. The rogue youth was extremely shocked, kneeling down with pale face, breathing rapidly, and continuously begging for mercy. Eventually, the Taoist retrieved his yellow silk cord, and as it returned to his hand, it immediately returned to its original form. At the same time, the youth saw another snake winding its way into the city. After this incident, the Taoist became even more famous in Jinan Prefecture. The local officials and gentry heard of his extraordinary abilities and sought to befriend him, so he often visited the homes of the gentry. Local officials, regardless of their rank, had all heard of the Taoist's abilities. Whenever there were banquets or gatherings, they would invite the Taoist to attend. One day, the Taoist hosted a banquet in a pavilion on the water to entertain the local officials. On the appointed day, each official found an invitation from the Taoist on their desks at home, but no one knew how the invitations had been delivered. Subsequently, the officials arrived at the designated location for the banquet, where the Taoist greeted them respectfully. Upon entering, however, they discovered that it was just a quiet empty pavilion, without any seats or tables, causing them to suspect that the Taoist had played a prank on them. The Taoist looked at the officials and said, "I have no servants. Could I borrow the attendants accompanying you to help me set up?" The officials all agreed. Then, the Taoist drew 2 doors on the wall and knocked on them. Suddenly, there was a response from inside the doors, followed by the sound of unlocking, and the doors opened. Everyone approached to see and found that there seemed to be figures moving inside, with screens, curtains, beds, and tables all complete. Soon after, people began to pass these items through the doors to the outside, and the Taoist instructed the attendants to receive them and arrange them in the pavilion, advising everyone not to speak to the people inside the doors. Therefore, when items were passed inside and outside the doors, they only exchanged smiles. Before long, the pavilion was filled with luxurious furnishings. Then, fragrant wine flowed, and various dishes steamed, all passing through the walls. The guests were all amazed by this spectacle. The pavilion where the banquet was held originally faced a lake, and every June, the lake would be filled with acres of lotus flowers as far as the eye could see. But now, it happened to be the depths of winter, and outside the windows, there was only mist, obscuring the view of the green waves. An official sighed. Today is a rare gathering, but unfortunately, it's the wrong season, and we can't see the lotus flowers on the lake. Others chimed in agreement. Soon after, a servant in green hurried over to report. The lotus leaves have covered the entire surface of the lake. The guests were all astonished, so they pushed open the windows and looked out, indeed seeing the lake covered with lush lotus leaves interspersed with lotus buds. In the blink of an eye, countless buds bloomed all at once. A northern wind blew, and the fragrance of lotus flowers immediately filled the air. Just as the guests were all amazed, some servants were dispatched to row out and pick lotus flowers. From afar, the guests saw the servants rowing into the depths of the lotus pond, but soon they returned empty-handed to the officials. When asked why they hadn't picked any lotus flowers, the servants replied, "We intended to row to the depths of the lotus pond, but found that the lotus flowers were still far away from us. We then rowed to the north bank, only to see lotus flowers blooming far away on the south side of the water." The Taoist smiled and said, "These lotus flowers are not true, it's just my illusion." Before long, as the banquet was coming to an end, the lotus flowers began to wither, and a north wind came, causing the lotus flowers and leaves on the river's surface to disappear. The banquet pleased the provincial governor of Jidong greatly, and he brought the Taoist back to the yamen, requesting him to accompany him in leisure activities every day. One day, while the governor and his guests were drinking, there were some very expensive wines in his house, but he would only offer a small amount to his guests each time, refusing to let them drink more freely. On this day, the guests found the taste of the wine exceptionally delightful and repeatedly requested the governor to bring out all of his fine wines. However, the governor deceived them, claiming that the wine had all been consumed. Upon hearing this, the Taoist smiled and said to the guests, "If you want to enjoy yourselves, you can come to me." The guests asked the Taoist to fulfill his promise, so the Taoist put the wine jug into his sleeve. Shortly after, he took out the wine jug and poured wine for each person present. The taste of the wine was indistinguishable from the fine wines stored by the governor. So, everyone had a great time before returning home. The governor, feeling doubtful, went to check the wine barrels in his house and found that although the seals on the outside were intact, there was no wine inside. Feeling ashamed and angry, the governor arrested the Taoist as a demon and subjected him to torture. However, as soon as the stick struck, the governor felt intense pain in his buttocks, as if his flesh was being torn apart. Despite the Taoist also crying out in pain, the governor's buttocks were already bloody, so the torture had to be stopped, and the Taoist was driven away. Afterwards, the Taoist left Jinan without a trace. Later, someone encountered the Taoist in Jinling, dressed the same as before. When asked if he had ever lived in Jinan, he just smiled and remained silent. Alright. That's all for today's ghostly tale. Lotus flowers in the winter. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Please also encourage everyone to comment and share more. We'll see you in the next episode.